All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to do something a little bit that's off color for me, something I don't typically do, and that's we're going to directly address another YouTuber's claim where I thought we were in disagreement, but maybe we are in agreement. And before I start this video, I just want to say this is not like a personal attack. In fact, this is all done out of fun, and it's a conversation we have as photographers, which really doesn't matter in the end, but it makes it's one that drives people crazy, and I want to explain, in my opinion, a response to this. And just to kind of get out of the way, I'm replying to Rosa's video he made the other day. The overall video was kind of about how like APS-C professional bodies, how they offer more than full frame at equivalent prices. And you know, he said it in a different way, but that's how I kind of took the video. But there's one specific point in the video where he said, we said this.
On me right now should be a nice big circle. And this is going to represent the element or the light gathering or just the lens of a 50mm 1.2 lens from Canon, okay? That's a nice, awesome lens. L-glass, baby. It is the best. Now let's figure out how we get our depth of field. It's easy. Our depth of field equation is focal length times aperture equals depth of field. So 50mm times 1.2 equals our depth of field. That's going to tell us how shallow our depth of field is. That's pretty good, right? So nothing changes. 50mm is a 50mm is a 50mm. Now, if I was to adapt that lens though to the Canon R7, the way you guys speak of it, that means that when I adapt it on the R7, I have to apply crop factor to not only the focal length, and now all of a sudden it's a 75mm, which doesn't make sense, but also my aperture gets multiplied by 1.5, which makes it like a 2.8, which doesn't make any sense either because the lens is a 50mm 1.2 lens. So now my depth of field is off, but that's not actually what happens. You see, all that.
Okay, so when he said that, you know, I didn't disagree with him. Yeah, it's true that a 50mm, in his case, he uses a 1.2 lens, will always give the same focal length and same depth of field. That's not incorrect, but it's disingenuous to then talk about that and not mention that, well, you have to change your entire framing, which changes your distance from the subject, which changes the way the depth of field is portrayed. And at the end of the day, we're taking pictures of things within this square frame. We're not just slapping lenses on top of cameras and then it is what it is, right? So you have to consider how you will have to move your body back and forth from the subject to change the depth of field. And just to be clear, the only thing that affects depth of field is focal length, aperture, and distance from the subject, either camera to subject or subject to background. That's it. Your sensor size doesn't actually change the depth of field. It just changes your field of view, which then forces you to move back or closer to your subject. So what we're going to do today is do a little test. I happen to have with me, I'm obviously recording on the XH2S because that's better for video, but we have with me here, we have first of all the Fuji 33mm 1.4. We'll be using this as an example to kind of tie it all together. We have here my Leica SL2S with the 50mm f2 Summicron version 5 M mount. This is adapted with L to M. And then we have the XT30, and I have also an adapter to go from Fuji X to Leica M. So we'll use that same 50mm Summicron on both. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a photo with that 50mm Summicron, and we're going to do it from the same distance. In other words, just showing that how it changes your field of view, but how the bokeh still will be the same, or the depth of field, I should say, not bokeh, will be the same. And then how if you put the 33 1.4 on the Fuji, like then it looks like a 50 f2. And then we're going to move back for framing and show the differences. And that'll kind of prove my point in conversation that I was having with D on his channel. Again, nothing against D. I don't know if in the end we actually agreed or not, or we're arguing semantics. I don't know. I wasn't really arguing. It was just more of a point. But I wanted to show this. So yeah, let's get to it, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is use my beautiful model here, which is my baby daughter's little doll. And we're going to set up on a tripod, which I've got right here. Yes, it's in my landscaping because I could only get her to stand up against this railing post. And we're going to leave the tripod in the exact same spot. I'm going to frame for 50mm on a full frame equivalent, or on the full frame. And then I'm going to leave the tripod in the exact same spot, put that same 50mm lens on the XT30 adapted, and take a photo. and see what that looks like. All right, first up here we've got the Leica SL2S with the 50 f2 Cron. I've got it set up at 50 millimeters f2 with ISO 100. We're going to manually focus and take a photo and put that up right about now. All right, we've now adapted the 50 f2 Cron. Same thing, I haven't moved the tripod whatsoever. And we're going to take a photo just to show that the Cron's on there. The Cron is on there, and again, I haven't moved this thing at all. Turn back on camera, what are you doing? All right, sorry, I had to turn this thing on to shoot without lens. Anyways, here we go. We got it focused now on my dial here, and boom, there's the photo. All right, so let's take a look at those photos real quick and show you that the depth of field is the same, it's just the angle of view, or the field of view I should say, that has changed. In other words, we are cropped more in on the image circle of the lens because the sensor is smaller versus the full frame sensor. I'll show that difference right now. All right, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm flip the XT30 right here over, put the 33 1.4 on there and show you how they're the same. And just explain this to you in simple terms. When you apply the crop factor of an APS-C sensor, in this case 1.5, you apply it to the focal length. So 33 times 1.5 is roughly 50 millimeters. And because you're using a wider lens, one of the things that controls depth of field is aperture. And so the wider the aperture, or the smaller the number of the aperture, the shallower your depth of field. And because you're using a 33 millimeter lens, then you have to have a shallower depth of field, or a wider, more wide open aperture to get a shallower depth of field. And so that's why people always say you apply the crop factor to the aperture as well, because really it ends up looking like a 50 millimeter f2, even though you're shooting through a 33 1.4. So it's not that the actual sensor size changes somehow the aperture. It doesn't. The light gathering is still 1.4. It's still a 33 millimeter lens. It's that when you apply 1.5 to the crop factor, you can be at about the same distance as a 50 millimeter lens, and the resulting output from that looks like 50 millimeter f2, because you're actually shooting on a wider lens, 33 millimeter at 1.4, which is shallower. So it kind of offsets. And so when you shoot crop sensors, you need to go with wider lenses to get the similar field of view or similar framing. And you need to have shallower apertures, or more wide open apertures, to offset that more wide focal length, if that makes sense. So a 33 1.4 is always a 33 1.4, and that lens will always be a 33 1.4. But when you put it on a crop sensor, it looks like a 50 f2 with equivalent framing. So let me show you what the 33 1.4 looks like here, and then I'll put all three of them together and I'll show you what I mean. All right, so now what I've done is I've taken the XT30 and put the 50 millimeter Summicron back on, and I've moved it back to a point where the framing should be about the same as to what I had with the 50 millimeter Summicron on my Leica SL2S. And what you're gonna find is I've moved back about, I don't know, 5-6 feet, something like that. And you'll see how the field of view changes. I was further up, I'm in my landscaping, it's the only place I could find it. I was further up there, and I've moved it back where I'm now in the bush right here. And so I've framed it up. Now, the frame might be exactly the same because it's hard to do that, but I've done what I think would be close, and put it in focus, just took a photo, and I'll show you a comparison of these. And so what I'll do is I'll line up here the 50 f2 on the Leica versus the 50 f2 on the XT30 in the same position. We'll compare those. And then we'll do the 33 1.4 on the Fuji versus the 50 f2 on the Leica. And then we'll move this camera back and compare all those. And I hope what you guys see in the end of this is that even though the lens always determines the focal length and the depth of field, the sensor size plays a role into where you have to be in order to frame up your subject. And if it changes the distance between the camera and the subject, or the subject in the background, then it's going to change the way the depth of field looks. It's just the way it is. That's physics. You can't get around that. There's no way to do that. So when people say like silly things like, you know, the depth of field is depth of field. But yeah, I guess like on the lens level it is. But when you're actually using it in practice, you have to take pictures of subjects, and the crop factor will apply and change the way you stand in relation to your subject. I hope this makes sense. If you guys want to debate this down below, I know it's a hot topic, let me know. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Oh, I should say one more thing. D, thank you for making the video. I watch a lot of your stuff. You're a professional photographer. You get paid for this. You fly around the world. I shoot Fuji. I shoot Leica. No hard feelings. This is not personal. In fact, keep it up. And thank you for making your videos. I'll see you in the next one.